Hello and welcome to Raising Anchor, your podcast and source for all things Rhode Island FC. I'm your host, Matt Inchigan, and this is your Monday Mailbag for June 16th, 2025. Rhode Island FC gets their first win in club history at Centerville Bank Stadium, and we are all of the buzz right now talking about the good times, the good vibes, and the success of this game. And I can't think of a better group of individuals to talk to tonight than none other than co-host Jason Carey. Jason, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic, buddy. Riding high off that home win there. It's been a great weekend.
Been a fantastic weekend. And I figured as a special treat, it's time to bring him from the background into the spotlight. None other than producer Torin. Torin, how are you doing, my friend? And welcome to your debut. We took it safe. We did the Monday mailbag. We wanted to make sure we could keep this in a contained environment. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm great. I feel like I'm dreaming still, honestly. Don't think it's quite set in, but yeah, love to be here in the spotlight.
Is that the fever from your sickness or is that the fever from the pitch? Which fever do you have right now?
It's probably a bit of both. I'm still struggling a little bit, but I could not miss last night. And yeah, it's just what a moment. What a moment.
I respect it. So for those the uninitiated, Torin wasn't originally going to come to the game. He was under the weather. We had said, hey, because we had some planned content we wanted to do, and Torin said, hey, I don't think I'm going to make it. Ends up making the ultimate sacrifice to his body, his health, his well-being. And what a game to not miss. I'm sure there are thousands of Rhode Island FC fans who maybe were giving up on this team thinking like the win's not going to come. I mean, we had been joking at this point that we couldn't predict a win out of just the consequences of seeing so many dropped points. And what a game that was. I mean, at the death, you couldn't have asked for a better storyline. There's a fan tonight that writes in the mailbag that like what a storyline it was. Torin, I guess I'll just ask you, if you had missed this game, would you have hated the rest of your life?
I mean, a win is a win. So I think even if I wasn't there, I would have been happy that we had just gotten over it. But the thing I'm most happy about is we were talking about it when I texted you guys and said, oh, I'm not going to be here. You immediately said, Matt, if we win, you are never coming back. Because for those of you who don't know, I've only been to 2 matches at Centerville Bank Stadium, and they've both been 1-0 losses to Pittsburgh and Miami. So I think that would have been the biggest heartbreak, is knowing that I could never go back to the stadium. So we'll take
as
it.
someone who's been accused of being a curse, it's great to get over that, right? Where you feel like, hey, I am not someone who is superstitious, but you can look back and say, hey, wasn't me.
Oh, it feels great to not be the problem. It feels amazing.
Not superstitious, but a little stitious. And trust me, there are fans who we've already talked to who couldn't make it to the game, and we've already had words exchanged. You're like, not welcome back. I'm sorry, but
never gonna watch a game again.
You can travel, or you can watch it on ESPN Plus, or if you've got Destin. But unfortunately, Centerville Bank Stadium no longer welcomes you to its stadium grounds. But okay, so let's talk about this. Obviously, we do the full coverage of the game on the Thursday show. So this is more of the vibe check. This is the feelings. Haven't even pulled the stats. I'm not going to, because normally we start pulling the stats to pull the threads and those feel good moments, but a win is a win. Jason, I'm going to start with you. Overall, how much are you still on? I mean, you said this weekend's been perfect. How good are you feeling after that win? What did that win make you feel like in the moment when you were there?
Oh, it's great, because when we look back to Thursday, I was thinking like, I'm still going to be there for this is my team. I will support them through the good and the bad, but it was feeling like we were leaning more towards the bad. There were definitely away excitement, right? Whenever this team would go away, you're like, hey, anything could happen. I feel good about this. But when they come home, you're like, I don't know about this right now. And we didn't know when that was going to get solved. And sometimes you just need to get a win. And, we'll go through the analysis later on in the week, but this felt like one of those games where I don't want to say we didn't deserve it or anything. At the end of the day, it felt like we attacked enough in the second half to get the result, but it's definitely one of those games where we did what we needed to do to get the result.
Torin, how about yourself?
I mean, I think the moment kind of sums it up. It as much as as someone who's very tactical himself and loves to look at the stats of it. I woke up this morning and I went, nope, I'm not doing that to myself. I'm taking the win and I'm moving on. It was what this team needed. I think is kind of the biggest thing. Hopefully we can catch momentum from this. I know we're going to talk about that later, but I think most importantly, this is what this whole team needed.
Agreed. Sometimes there's the stat lines, and I'm sure by the time we get to that, we can break down some of the compromised state of the team. Maybe some places where they excelled that the eyeball test didn't, necessarily validate. But strictly eyeball speaking, it's a feel good moment. It's an important win, and I think too, you know, Torin, I'm going to steal some of your thunder that we talked about in the pre-show. It reminds me of those moments where fans didn't just walk away with a win in this match, right? Like they walked away with a memorable win. And it wasn't because it was the first, it was the way we win. And sometimes the way you win matters just as much as the overall performance. Like, were there mistakes on the pitch? Sure. Do I remember Chico's attempted bike and then like scorpion kick as much as I remember his goal? Absolutely.
Or when he slipped and
Or when he
slid.
slipped and fell. Like,
Oh my god.
joke. Like we were getting, if the game had ended in a loss, the repeating GIF or GIF, if you want to fight me on that, of the scoreline that we post was gonna be Chico falling, and I didn't feel good about that. But like that would have summed up perfectly where this game's trajectory could have gone. But then as soon as you win, it's all off the table, right? Like at this point, and we said it in the player ratings video that we did. It doesn't matter if an individual performance was maybe worse than it should have been. When you get a win like this, and it's built in such a historic manner, everybody deserves the credit. Everybody deserves what they needed to experience. And like I'll tell you after the game, we're gonna put the post game interviews up here in a second. Hearing everyone celebrate like they had just won the World Cup in the locker room right next door was incredible. Like that was a moment that you can't ever take away from them. So to diminish anything other than to say congratulations to this team and well done, like great job, like I'm going to live in that moment, and I know that fans are going to be talking about this game the same way they would talk about the first game home at Bern, where sure that one wasn't a win, but that come behind in the death, like those moments, those build legacy. This team can build moments of significance out of nothing, and that's what fans show up for. The people that maybe only had one game left in their ticket packages, or maybe that was their first game, those kinds of games are what have them come back for the next game and the next game after that. So to win in such a way like that, to me, is the bigger storyline than anything else from pitch side. I think my dog just yawned and cried at the same time. It was impressive. Anyways, that's what happens on the Monday mailbags at night. Let's get into this then. Let's just drop straight into the interviews. We're going to start with Coach Kano. It's an interesting one. I won't say why until we get done, but I'm curious about. I mean, Jason was there with me, but I guess Torin, as the guest of honor here, we'll get into these and kind of talk through how Coach Kano felt after the interview.
Team, you see that time and time again. They just don't quit, keep pushing. That's our team. That's our DNA. So yeah, I'm really, really, really proud of them. They deserve that.
The Memphis win last year that sparked the unbeaten streak was right around this time. Does this game have that same effect? I know it's uncanny with, I think that game was on the 12th and today's obviously the 14th. Hope
so. I hope it gives it a little bit of, we talk about giving things jet fuel, so hopefully that gives it a little bit of jet fuel, pushes on.
How big of a sigh of relief is it for the guys to get the first win at home, and especially considering offense has been a bit of a struggle as of like the last few matches?
I mean, yeah, when you think small picture of it, like, yeah, we need to win at home for our fans and get that first win. But in the big picture, we need to do more and be much better. But yeah, it's nice to finally check that off. But because it was the first win in the stadium, it really doesn't hold significance for me. But I just want to win the game because it's a game.
Sure. You know? What adjustments did you make in the second half, particularly defensively? Because I know with North Carolina, they were really pressuring the ball the last 15, 20 minutes of the first half. So what adjustments were made in the second half to kind of make sure the possession was in your guys' favor for the back 45?
Yeah, that's a really good question because we felt how they scored their goal, like in transition, we were just way too open and way too exposed. So it looked like every time they was gonna attack, every time they attacked, it looked like they was gonna score. And it wasn't much, but every time they did, it was really dangerous. So we obviously had Amos playing as a number 6 by himself, so we just felt having another number 6 next to him because they were playing with 2 10s coming off the line, like he's just overloaded. So to condense that and stop that from happening, we obviously then lost possession. We couldn't press them as high because we didn't have as many numbers high, but we were winning the ball deeper and took away the more dangerous chances.
Frank really pushed the tempo there coming off the bench. What'd you like out of him?
Frank, he's unique, because he's a center back, but I say this in the best possible compliment, like he's a street footballer, like he's played soccer on the street, like the stuff that he does, he's Megan, like I could never teach him that, like, and you need some of that, I feel like so much of that is going out of the game, and in professional soccer, people are like robots, but Frank's street footballer, and that's coming playing in the backyard with his friends in the street with his friends, like that's what he learned growing up.
In terms of the quality between this game and then last Saturday's home game, you were talking how it was lacking. Do you feel that you've turned the corner on that now? Did you see everything you need to see out of this team beyond the 2 goals that were scored?
What do you think? We scored 2 goals last week and 0 this week. 2 this week and 0 last week.
I'm just asking if it's something to do with maybe like the tactical adjustments again. Are you seeing those things now flourish? Or because the game can be a bit of a luck, right? Like there are moments and instances where players in the right place at the right time. Are you seeing that positionally? Are you seeing your players setting themselves up for success in differentiation from those other 2 games?
I don't think there's much difference. We didn't score last week. We scored 2 this week. We didn't change. We made little tactical tweaks here and there, but they played well last week. They just didn't score. So, yeah, I know people want to look at results and like, yeah, did you win? But can't always win. Everybody wants to win. So they played well last week. They played well again this week. The performance was good. So you ain't going to always score.
Did you see more from Albert, though? It seemed like there was more of a cutting edge from him, especially in that goal, the way he just beat his defender to the spot. Did you see a little bit more creativity from him or more want to? I don't know what you call it.
I thought he took his goal really well. We talked a lot about double movement. Like you can see, if you go back and watch the goal, like he moved forward and then moved back. So he lost his defender, and that's how we got free. So crosses were coming in, and he wasn't really getting free. But yeah, double movements inside the box. We talk a lot about attackers losing their marker. So yeah, he double movement, and he went in the back shoulder of his defender. He couldn't see him. He had a free header.
How proud of you the resiliency, just the way you guys battled until the 94th, 95th minute. The results aren't going your way, but there's still that fighting spirit. I'm sure it must be great for you to see that, even though the results haven't been going the way you want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk a lot about team spirit and never giving up, and sometimes it maybe feels, but I feel they never do. Like they're a competitive group. They want to win. They want to win so bad. They want to play well so bad. But yeah, the energy and intensity to keep going. Like guys were dying. Amos was dying at the end. Zach's played 3 games this week. So many of them played so many minutes. So I don't think people really understand how difficult that is for the majority of them that played 3 90-minute games back to back to back to back. That's really shouldn't be allowed for athletes, to be honest, because it's not. You're pushing the boundaries of it being safe, but. That's the schedule that we were dealt, and we flew back from Louisville. Flight was delayed. We were delayed getting there. Those are the things that people don't really see and don't appreciate, but I know what they've been through and what they're willing to do to help this team win.
So can you say how difficult was it to get ready for a game 72 hours after that game in Louisville? What was the process like to get ready for this game and to focus just on North Carolina and not on rehabbing from the game on Wednesday?
Yeah, I mean, first priority is that they recover. They have to physically recover, mentally recover. We didn't practice when we got back on Thursday. Like we had 1 day of training, which was Friday, and that's again the bodies are still recovering. So it's incredibly difficult. But the focus was we don't really do when we have that many games in a week. We normally would do a review of our game. Like we just didn't do a review of the Louisville game. We didn't do one of, was it Miami? We really didn't do a big one of the Miami group. We did smaller units because we just feel like we can cover more ground. But yeah, honestly, when you have that many games, it's just about recovery and getting their bodies as fresh as possible. But they do all they can. They're professionals. We have cryotherapy that we go to, so it's all about recovery and then just preparing for the next opponent.
Speaking of recovery, more players are coming off of the injury list. Now Danny Rivera gets his first start of the season. Obviously, it was just a few minutes, but how's his overall progress? How is he looking as he gets integrated into this team?
Looking good. He came onto the game. He played. How do you think he played?
Wasn't enough, but I'm talking about the actions in between as he's been going through practice. Are you seeing what you want to see from him as well as he's developing into the role?
Yeah, he's available and fit and able to play. So, yeah, he's right where he should be. He had a long-term injury. He's back. So, yeah, he's good enough to make the roster. So, yeah, pleased.
Speaking of Rivera, you have a wealth of talented defenders now on your team. We saw him deployed in kind of like a right wing or right midfield type position. Is that where you kind of expect him to be deployed this season?
I think Danny's a good player, and I think all of our players are good players. So for me, good players can play anywhere, and that was the circumstance that he needed to go into for the game. The reason I put him there, because he's a good crosser of the ball. So get him higher up the field and get service in the box. I felt like we had a lot of possession at the end, but we weren't really, again, dangerous for that spell. So for him to get service in the box, that's what he's good at. That's what he does. So that was the reasoning for that.
So that is Cano Smith. Jason, you were there. We have the insider piece to that. First and foremost, just overall thoughts on the interview, the questions as he answered them. Any initial thoughts that you have there, Jay?
I mean, Kano is hard man to read, right? In the sense that even when the team doesn't perform well, he wants to protect his boys. He speaks very highly of them, and even in this regard, where maybe there was some challenges in regards to like, hey, this is important in the sense that you finally got the first result. And he's like, we've been playing good the whole time. Like, you should have never doubted us. So, I mean, in that regards, he's fair in the sense that if you go back and look at a lot of the stats, maybe at times we should have been getting the results that this team needed, but they just weren't going our way. And part of that comes down to a lot of factors that are really hard to quantify when it comes to the sports, right? I think of a really like succinct way of soccer being described. It's like playing chess where every move is a dice roll, in the sense that no matter how hard you like drill into your players about the movements and the tactics, every single action on the pitch comes with a level of like luck and skill and randomness that you just cannot factor in. Right? It can be like state of mind. It can be weather. It can be the pitch. It can be the ball. There's so much factors that come into play that you can't look at this team and say they have not been trying, right?
Agreed.
It just hasn't been happening.
Agreed. Torin, what were your initial thoughts as you heard that?
I mean, first of all, I do not think Coach likes your questions, Matt. I'm not gonna lie. He was not impressed. That's second week in a row.
I wasn't gonna say it, Torin, but yeah, I think he doesn't like Matt.
Full disclosure, after Kano left the room, all of the journos kind of patted me on the back and like, we don't know what you did to the guy, but like we've all been there. Shake it off. Because like I mean, you know, I don't usually toot my own horn here, but like we have been there every single game, -1 in the entirety of this club's, you know, existence. And there is something right now that Kano does not agree with, whether it was something we did on the podcast, it was something I've done at practice sessions. Kano, in the immediacy right now, not a fan of mine, and I'll work on understanding that. Like, I feel like of all of the presences out there, we've been the fairest and the least mean,
We
but
try.
like at the same time, like
Yeah.
we have to cover the team fairly. And so like I don't know if it was our conversation on the last show or what. I don't know if it was a game of telephone where front office members went to him, because I don't think he listens to the show. I know his mom listens to the show, so maybe his mom said something. And if she is listening, please let Connor know we like, I think he's a great guy. And also happy Father's Day. But other than that, don't know what's going on, but I was surprised. And like he made me kind of double down and like ask the next question. So I got read the riot act as professionally as one head coach can do to a, I'll call myself middle J journalist instead of capital J, but it was, thank you, Torrin. Thank you for calling that. We didn't even tell you to ask that question. So thank you for reading between the
Look,
lines on that.
I had to bring it up. Maybe it's because we went 2 straight games and none of us predicted a win. Maybe that's it, you know. But no, I thought you could definitely tell he was a much more appreciative of the team, because I felt like in the last press conference it felt like he was very much like I wasn't outing a specific player, but the team itself, and talking about how the quality wasn't there. And then I think you really saw in this one, he was like really bigging them up and really talking about how this team, when they're at their best, play really well. And even at their lowest, as he was saying, you know, and with Miami and with Louisville, like they're still playing well, just because, you know, we're lacking that, you know, play in the final third. You know, it's still overall good play. And I really thought the Louisville game was, you know, an unlucky game. You know, if that had been any other team but Louisville, I think that probably would have at least been a point. But no, I think you can tell that I think he feels a lot better about, you know, the team going forward.
Yeah, and I would say, going back to the Louisville match too, like it's okay that this team's not in form and not expecting a result against the best team in the league. Like sometimes the dice aren't gonna land in your favor, right? Like that's completely fair. I think the Miami game was a
all
little
ones.
right, and I think the Miami game was probably more the showing of like, okay, where do we want to be as a team? You heard it from one of the other journalists in the interview, like, is this your Memphis 401 or Memphis 901? Excuse me, it's 401 night. I'm getting them backwards. Is this your Memphis 901 moment? Because we asked that last week, like, are you going to have your Memphis 901 moment? And then the Louis game didn't kind of manifest that. So maybe that is, maybe that isn't, but I agree. I think the thing I want to ask, and we'll probably do a deep dive on the statistics of it, we noticed watching the game how comfortable Frank was taking on opponents in the dribbling, something that Rhode Island FC has been lacking significantly. We talked at length that, you know, is that a symptom of Quizera out to the right now? Noah didn't really have a good game in his challenges of taking dribbles, but Frank just looked super comfortable. And again, no stats in front of me. It could have been 4, it could have been 9, but like every time he had the ball at his feet, he didn't seem, you know, awkward or especially as the defender, right? Like maybe no one was really to cover him if he didn't keep the ball in possession. He just seemed really comfortable on that left side, taking those defenders on. There was one where like he just kept it on the line and just kept moving up the pitch. And like, I think that might be one of we talked about conversion
It's like
last
the X
week.
factor, right? In the sense where you build a structure, you have like a style of play, but he brings this added layer where he's going to do the things that a street footballer would do, where he's going to try and meg that guy. He's going to try and go past them, as opposed to do the safer option and say, well, I can turn to my right and just pass it to the center midfielder.
But I'm just saying, like, we haven't seen a lot of that this year, right? Like that has been something I think that, you know, when you say about the stats, I don't think we've pulled up dribbling stats. And maybe that's the like you said, that's the X factor. That's the differentiation that gets this team into more dangerous positions in the final third, because they're good at advancing. It does not, this game withstanding, they're good at getting into the final third. They're even good holding on to possession in the final third, but it's always been that, like, what's that thing that will break the final line, will be the dangerous pass. And maybe it's a little bit of one-on-one dribbling, and maybe we need to bring back FIFA Street 05. You know, like we really gotta get dangerous here. So let's get moving on. Let's get into Chico's interview so that we can kind of keep this to sub 1 hour. We don't want Torrin to stay up too late tonight. So, you know, it's one of those kinds of things.
About making double moves on runs. What did you see on your goal that maybe was a little different than some of the other crosses you've been getting this season on that play, on that goal?
Yeah, my first run when I made it and I didn't see the ball coming, I was like, okay, I have to recycle my run in that moment, because For a forward, you need to be active in the box. That's where you live. So, and when I make that first movement, the ball didn't get to me. I was okay. Let me try to pull up and then make it again. And thanks God, they put a good cross. And the only thing I had to do in that moment just put a good contact.
Connor was talking about, staying in the game and fighting for a result. Where's that come from you guys? It hasn't been going away this season, but still trying to fight for 95 some minutes.
Yeah, it's the one thing in this league, like sometimes good football doesn't win games. You have to bring some more energy, more fight, and today we brought the fight and the intensity, and I think like going for the next game, we have to bring it more because today was a good win, but we can do better than that.
Even with that, how good was it to finally get that good result and get a critical 3 points, after things have been kind of, even though the play has been really solid the last, few weeks overall, but just the end result wasn't, on the scoreboard wasn't all that good. So just how good was it to finally get those 3 points tonight the way it was?
Tonight was a good 3 points, to be honest, because obviously coming for 3 losses in a row, that's right? And that was the most win today, and I know it's not going to always be pretty. It's not going to always be pretty, and just find a way to win games, and that's what we did tonight.
Chico, for you as a forward personally, not only was this game so important from a win perspective, but also no goals were scored from Rhode Island FC's side in the last 3 matches as well. As a forward, do you take that a little bit more personally? Because I know there's a lot of eyes, a lot of expectations that say, Chico's got to score the goals. Obviously, it falls your way tonight, but in the prior matches, what do you say to people that sit, like when you don't score the goals, and how do you kind of set yourself up for success in those games where you don't score?
So I go hard on myself sometimes, like a lot, because I have a high expectation on myself, and obviously when we don't score the goal, the first person is the forward. That's my job. That's what I get paid for, and I take it well. Because that's the reason I'm here, like to score goals. If I can score, I have to find a way to give an assist and make an impact, and that was true. Like last few games, like wasn't my best, and I know we're trying to fight the momentum, and thanks God to that, got a goal, and I hope it's gonna be a good run.
I've seen and noticed that your physicality on the pitch has intensified over these last 5 to 6 matches.
Yeah.
You're engaging in way more duels.
Yeah.
You're taking on more of the back line. You're getting kind of beat up at times.
Yeah.
Have you been changing your style in the absence of like J.J. Williams when he used to kind of be that, like, I just noticed that you're a lot more physical lately.
Yeah.
Is that something that you and coach have been working on to kind of help the team on the front line?
Yeah, it's something that we've been working, like the hold-up play. Obviously, my game is like, if you know me, my game is like movement, run inside the box, finding the space inside the box, and JJ is most like the target guy. And when JJ is injured right now, I have to try to be a complete forward. That's what I'm trying to do right now, find a way to help the team. And I know it's the area that I need to improve a lot. Maybe I should go to the gym like more often, So, yeah.
But the body's holding up?
Yeah, the body holding
You
up.
were getting beat up in the Pittsburgh matches, so I just want to make sure you're good to go.
Yeah.
Have you seen Frank on the side do some of the moves? I don't know if you watched some of the moves he pulled off today and the one that drew the penalty.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a defender, but he looks like he has some moves like of an attacking midfielder.
Yeah, it's the funny part with Frank, like, after every training section, we used to do that 1-versus-1 training, so he said, yeah, I'm going to beat you, And, like, the good thing, I used to defend good, so I block him, like, sometimes when I go through him, and today he had some good moves, and I was like, wow, Frank. He said, yeah, I told you.
Can this be the start of something for you guys? 3 points is awesome, right? It's great
Yeah.
for today. What do you guys have to do going forward to keep building on this?
I think we just have to do the little things. Like, when I mean little things, it's just like energy, stuff that you can control, energy, like determination, duels, and the rest will come. And we have a good team. There's no doubt about that. We have a good team, and the only thing that we can control right now is like energy, the intensity, and then the rest will come. Soccer is a process. It's a process. So I remember last year we started bad as well, and then we end up going to the final. And I think that win is gonna boost a lot of confidence in the locker rooms. And yeah.
Chico, you're also one of the highest assist creators on the team right now across all competitions. Last year when we talked, you said that was a new dimension you wanted to add to your game.
Yeah.
That seems to be improving even more now.
Yeah.
Is that something you think about when comparing it to the goals that you want to score? Like for you, as a contribution just as important? Or would you like to see maybe a few more goals this season?
Yeah, eventually you want to see more goals, but I'm in the part of my career that I have to find a way to help the team, you know. You don't just want to be that kind of forward, like, you just want to score, you know, like, you know, helping the team, you know. I can be just like in the box, like, just score, but you have to find a way. If the defender trying to lock you down, you have to find a way, like, to make other people, like, to score goal, you know, because some games you feel like you're having like 3 or 4 defenders on you. It's tough sometimes to score. You have to accept that, you know. You have to accept that and make the team better.
Sounds like you're missing the party in there.
I know.
So that's Chico, and he absolutely was missing the party. They started celebrating as soon as Autograph Alley was done, that locker room, which is there's a lot of people that will never see the interior, like, guts of Centerville Bank Stadium. The interview room is a door across from the player locker room. So as soon as they were back there, and I don't know if it's in Maxi's one, but someone just starts screaming down the hallway, just super ecstatic. So we may hear that in a second.
I bet it was Rio.
It was probably, I mean, Rio was absolutely the happiest player on the pitch. But outside of Chico, I want to start things off here. I thought it was really interesting when he talked about, with JJ not being on the field, wants to be a more complete striker in his absence. I think we've seen that. I know a lot of fans are going to say, like, no, that needs to translate to more goals. Torren, really curious, is a complete striker the right answer there? Should we, now that we understand more about what he's been bringing to the table, like, do we need to not only give the man the credit due here for the goal, but also understand that, like, he has a lot of other new responsibilities kind of thrusted on him that didn't exist, 5 or 6 games ago?
I mean, I think at this point, I feel like JJ Williams has become like a phenom within the fan base since he's been injured. Like, he's this kind of like saving grace that as soon as he's back will come in and save the club. And obviously he's a great player, but I definitely think his play style was kind of the thing that we were missing, that kind of big bruiser that's just going to battle defenders and give you that kind of immediate long ball out. And I think you've definitely seen, I think I first saw it in Pittsburgh when we played them away. I thought that was my first kind of wow. Like, you can really see that Chico is kind of upped his game in that sense. And I think kind of ever since then, he's been putting in a lot of better performances. We don't need him just to score goals. We want our strikers to be doing more than that, to be helping build up play, to be, winning headers. And while he's not the tallest, we can see that he's improving how he makes his runs into the box, which is definitely important part of winning headers. So I think his game has been really, really improving, and that's just such a good thing to see after all the, kind of spotlight he's been under in these last few weeks.
I feel like he's suffering from the Alvaro Morata kind of syndrome, right? Where he works so hard, he does so much for the team, and then people look at his goal stats and say, like, oh, he's trash, right? But there's a reason Alvaro Morata is a top-level footballer and that he's played for a bunch of high-level clubs, because he is a really good player and he works tirelessly for the team. And we have the same kind of situation right here, where Chico is putting his body on the line. He's winning headers. He's winning duels. He's playing passes out wide. He's going out into the wing. He's making actually really good passes into the box. The problem is there's no one there to finish it. So
a lot of missing second and third runners. And, like, when we have the numbers up, I've noticed, and we send something into the mixer, the quality of the particular cross isn't there. But when the crosses are on point, we just don't normally have numbers for it. So it's an interesting dynamic. We're going to talk about Chico at length in the official review later this week. Curious, I just did some early stats on it, but Chico's not normally someone to score headers. He has scored 2 this year already, so he's already doubled his contribution in headers from last season. But I think historically, he's maybe had 1/5 of all goals scored across his championship career with body parts other than his foot. So that's kind of, to me, like, not headers aren't his game, you know.
Sounds like he's aging like a fine wine here.
We'll have to decanter him later. Let's get into Maxi's interview to kind of wrap up the players and that we had on the press conference.
I don't know why you're smiling so big.
Oh my gosh, it's about time, huh?
Maxie, you guys played 3 games in 8 days. You could have easily settled for a draw in the 94th, 93rd minute. What does it say about this group of guys that, and how dead tired you are to find a way to get the first win?
Yeah, I think we've been doing the little things right. I think sometimes we've just been unlucky or just hasn't gone our way that night. So we put so much hard work, the staff, players, and we didn't want to come into that locker room disappointed. So even if we had a draw, I think we could have said that we gave it everything, but to get that winner in the 90 whatever minute is special.
Well, there's still some work that needs to be done. How is there at least some sigh of relief to finally get one in the home building for the first time?
Yeah, of course. I think it's dragged on for quite a while. So to get the win in front of the supporters or fans that have supported come out whenever we're losing, drawing, it's always tough to do that at home. So to finally get the win, reward them, reward our staff, reward our players it's nice.
What was going through your mind in that moment? The goal goes in, the place erupts, and then you get to celebrate with the fans here for the first time.
Yeah, I normally black out, which I did, but I went left, and then I realized the goalie was going a little bit left as I kicked it, and I was like, well, hopefully I can hit it pretty well. So I'm pretty confident in penalties. I have a decent record, so knock on wood. Just confident in my ability to strike a ball and pick a side.
Take us a little bit through that final play to draw that penalty to get yourself into a penalty kick situation. Like, what were you trying to see to try to get around the defender and unfortunately got taken down in that spot. But just walk us through that eventually set up that penalty kick.
Yeah, I think we had been dancing around their box for most of that second half. I think there's moments where we were trying to, sometimes we overplay, but I think our style of play, we want to play football. We want to be able to break down teams, and it was I think we should have got penalties in the past, so I think luck finally went our way. Frank was brave and took one guy on, took on a second, and Frank's a tough guy to play against. I do it every day at training, so he drew the foul, and luckily I was able to finish the pen.
Maxi, sigues haciendo historia en este gran equipo. Haces el primer gol en este estadio contra el New England Revolution y hoy haces el gol de la victoria. ¿Cómo se siente seguir haciendo historia para este gran equipo?
No, orgulloso del equipo, y la verdad había momentos este año donde no jugué bien, había seguido partidos que no estoy jugando bien, no me siento como yo mismo, pero es parte de cambiar equipo, hay nuevos jugadores y hoy decidí, mira, voy a jugar feliz, con ganas y meter gol. Si meto gol voy a estar feliz, si no, no, pero lo bueno es que metí gol, ganamos y pues feliz.
Max, we've talked at length about you being the guy this season, being the record transfer into the club in 2025. It feels almost poetic that the first win comes down at the death like it did. But have you ever experienced a game where it all came down to a penalty with seconds left in the match? Like, have you been in those big moments before? What's that been like compared to now?
Yeah, there's some games I can think of in the last couple of years, whether it was Nisa, first couple of years in the USL with Detroit. Pretty comfortable at the PK spot. I learned how to take a pen in college. Our college coach asked Joe Brito. He was a stickler on how to take a pen. So that's where I learned the mental side as well as the ability to strike a ball. So, yeah, just fortunate to be in that situation. I knew if I missed, there was going to be a stadium that was heavily disappointed that we were finally there to. I keep playing it in my mind, me missing for some reason, and just being so panicky, but I scored it, thank goodness. So, yeah, it was a nice moment for the club. I think we've been waiting for a while, and this place is obviously amazing. It's the reason why I came, and I think there's moments this year where I haven't been myself or haven't been the player that people expected. So I take that with a lot of pressure, and I want to be one of the guys, and I want to be one of the best players in the league. So I think there's a time where, I had to step up and do something and help the team. So, yeah, it feels nice.
Is this the type of win that can propel you guys on a little bit of a streak, you think?
Yeah, of course. I think that's a really good team that we played. I think they've had some really good results against good teams. So finally to get that win instead of going every game, going, okay, first we got to get the first one, got to get the first one at home. We can finally focus on playing our best, and the results will come.
Beyond celebrating the locker room here in a minute, is there any post-game traditions that you like to partake in when you get wins at home?
I'm 29, almost 30, so I like to go home, walk the dog. It's funny, you get in a stadium where there's a crowd, everyone's electric, kids are saying your name, and then you suddenly go to walk your dog and it's complete quiet. And it's just, no one knows who I am. I'm not very important in this world. We play football for a living, so yeah, I like that. Being home and then it's quiet, you watch Netflix, watch a couple games, and you just become unimportant again. It's awesome.
Maxi Rodriguez, unimportant. I thought that was a really human moment. It was a question asked just curious to see if there were traditions. Maybe we know where the club went after the game. We found out later that they went out and definitely celebrated the win. But interesting to hear a human emotional moment from Maxi. Lots of pressure that he's put on himself. Torin, overall thoughts from his game and his interview.
I mean, I love the fact that he said that he blacks out during those moments, because I think it's Cole Palmer who said the exact same thing, and he's obviously only missed one in his professional career. So evidently, that's the sign of a good penalty taker, when there's nothing up there in that moment, which is
Good
probably
old
a
Chili
good thing.
Palmer.
Probably a good thing, because you don't realize the pressure, as he was talking about, thinking back on it if he had missed. But the one thing that was in my mind after he scored that was like, this is why we signed him. Like, for these moments, for the big moments, this is a player of like top tier quality. You see it every game that he is always going to be the difference maker, and I think this is like, it had to be him, in my opinion. It had to be him to win it in our first ever game.
We joked at the onset from, in the Miami game, the Lou game, did they deserve the penalty? And we joked like, well, historically,
Yeah, we wouldn't have scored it anyway.
but I think with Maxi on the field, I think that's a differentiation. Right now, him and JJ are probably the only two that we know of statistically are reliable. So like, just to know also too, that's the first penalty we've had all season. Like, that's in and of itself a little ironic. That comes back down to that luck factor. I know there's been a couple times where we've had hands up screaming like, hey, that's a penalty, and didn't go our way. So I think it was well done. You couldn't have asked for a better player, a better personality to take that shot. And again, I like that he doesn't put himself, I even asked, like, you're the guy, and he's like, I'm not the guy. I'm unimportant at the end of the game. I get paid to play football, almost like it was trivial. So I really enjoyed that answer. Jason, any final thoughts before we move on to the listener questions?
It was a great game. A lot of great interviews there. Glad to see us kind of finally get that, monkey off our back, as they say, and just be able to look to the next home game and not think about historical results and just say, like, okay, how do these two teams match up? How do we feel about this?
And I mean, I think back to the El Paso game. It came just a week or so after the Louisville match, but after that home win, like the floodgates opened, right? So it'll be really interesting to see how this momentum is built upon. I did ask Kano in the Friday practice session, in the interviews that are on the YouTube channel, I did ask him, hey, like, is this stretch of games, going to be the most important stretch of the season? And he looked at me and was like, Matt, the only match that's important is tomorrow.
The next one.
So I fell right into it. So, and of course, Torin sets the video up as like, hey, we're going to use that as the clip for the video. So I'm just taking L's all week here, guys. Let's get into the fan feelings and the impressions before we move into questions. Brattle Girl writes in, awesome to be in the stadium for this historic making game. Hashtag not fair weather fans. Not sure if Brattle Girl is replying to the fact that the weather, not summer weather like we would hope, or just that the dedicated were only the ones there, not the casuals, despite it being 401 night. W2M 1970 writes in, yes, Sacramento doesn't look anything special in regards to can we use this game as a catalyst to carry on momentum. And Jake 404 writes in, had the urge to say we're so back 10 minutes after saying it is so over. I love that one. That just reminds me of the Hangover comment. Like that, I love it.
All right, and what do we got here? We've got some questions here. Megan M says, I heard a rumor that JJ could be ready to come back in about 2 weeks. Matt, is that true?
I mean, unless you talk to JJ, he was at the game. We were just talking about his golf game.
I did see him hanging out, and I don't want to bug him. He had quite a few fans around, and I saw
always bug him.
Trip on the Trip on the field. So
Trip was on Chico's shoulders at the end of the match. So obviously,
I think I think Trip stole the man of the match paddle from Chico, didn't he?
I mean, if you remember what we learned about Trip expects his dad to score every goal. And so since JJ can't score goals right now, he's obviously going to hang out
living
and
vicariously
with
through
the player
Chico.
that does.
Okay,
Yeah, 100%. I don't know about 2 weeks. Kano said last week at practice that he's still on the timeline of end of June. So, I mean, yeah, sure, it's the 15th. 14 days is the end of June. But, Kano was also one to say, like, calf injuries are tricky, and so he'll come back when he's ready. So hopefully that's correct, Megan, but don't know for sure. Let's get into the next question here. Bob writes in, Clay Holstead is the guest speaker on Wednesday, June 18th at Providence Journal's High School Sports Awards. Do you think there's a chance we could get a copy of the presentation, and could we put it on our website? Jason, I mean, we flipped the questions here. I was going to answer this, but now you're in the hot seat here.
Providence High School. Do you know anyone who goes to that school?
Well, it's the Providence Journal High School Awards. So the answer is no, Bob. We probably will not be able to get the Providence Journal's content. I can ask Jake, the main writer that covers Rhode Island FC, to see if there's anything. But my guess is if they do have it, it'll probably be from a firewall perspective, or if Rhode Island FC puts it out.
Someone just recording it on their phone or something.
I mean, I saw Koke did the mental health awareness for the men for men in June. Like, I thought that was a really cool video they did. So there's a chance we'll see some of the content, but I don't know if we'll see Clay's speech. Also, Clay has to give a good speech for it to make it onto social media. So Clay is a really good footballer. Sometimes he's just too and the team will tell you, like, he's just too much of a dude at the time. Like, it'll be interesting to see how inspiring he can get. Like, he's always good for a quote. He's a human being, but I've never heard him, I haven't heard inspirational Clay Holstead. I've seen inspirational Clay Holstead on the pitch. Haven't heard that yet. So I'd love to hear.
He's got like those pictures on his wall with
like
quotes,
teamwork,
and on the bottom it says Clay Holstead.
Maybe. All right, Torin, this one's going to be for you. The first 18 minutes of the first half, the boys looked great, taking it to North Carolina, leading to the Chico goal. But after that, some flaws reappeared, giving the ball away at times, not always, but sloppy defending, leading to the NC equalizer. The effort is there, just not the finishing. Darcy and Clay energized this team that led to the penalty. What do you say about Joe and his analysis of the game?
I mean, if we're being 100% honest, the game wasn't perfect. It came down to the 94th minute, but overall, I quite agree with it. I think we started off really strong, and I was feeling really good about it. And then I think this happens a lot with us kind of towards the end of the first half. The drive starts to go a little bit, and the other team starts to grow into the game. And I think it also happens a lot with playing at home. The team kind of grows into it when they're away. And the big thing for me was how we came out in that second half. I think bringing on Frank Nadarce, and full credit to Kano for this, really just changed that entire game. I, had just gotten into the stadium right before the end of the half, and I was like, this could be a long second half, and I might never be invited back. But Nadarce came on, and I felt like we not only was it like how we were playing, but also mentality wise, we seemed so much more on it and so much more ready to fight for those 3 points. And, I thought the second half was, if we play like that for every game of the season, then I think this, we could be in for a very good, second half of the season.
All right, here, Tim M says Danny Rivera made his first, admittedly a brief appearance last night. Do you think he or Hugo will still have a chance to make an impact on the team, or have they missed too much time already?
Can I just answer back with, what did you think, Jason, of Danny Rivera?
So I think that we're still not even halfway through the season, right?
We're about a third. A little
on
over.
top of that, we are loving that Jägermeister Cup right there. I think this team has a really good opportunity to go far into that cup. I think Kano has amassed a wealth of talent in the back there. And at this point, he's just going to play them all over the place. He loves flexibility, right? He, despite being a United fan, is very much he loves himself some pep ball. He wants to play defenders everywhere. He likes people who are comfortable on the ball and passing it well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see people like Rovira and Sanchez out on the wings, kind of playing those crosses. You have a lot of strong defenders in the back who are comfortable on the ball. Passing into the midfield, they step up. We have Coque Vegas who comes up, and we have this weird system where there's really only actually 2 defenders back there. We love to possess and pass around the ball. So I think there's a very good opportunity that they are still important members of this team. There's still a lot of football to be played. And I'm looking forward to Hugo finally getting a chance to see the field. A lot of the fans were really excited to see Danny. Like that, he almost got a standing ovation.
Very smart fans, like they recognized the importance of it being his first substitution
kind of a big deal
on. Yeah, I would agree with that to a certain extent. I think one of the instances that was the most interesting is Grant Stoneman. We've talked at length. Like, I don't know that he's got the legs to play 90 minutes for 35 plus games.
He is like simultaneously looked very solid, but also like he's about to fall apart.
Like at what cost, right?
Yeah.
Mabika at the same time. I mean, he's had to ice his legs after 2 games in a row. Like, this team, they played to the 90th minute, so they are going to put wear and tear on themselves. So having depth is going to be important.
It's going to be a strength.
I don't think this is a 2025 concern when we say, like, have they played themselves out or have they lost their chance? I think what it really comes down to is the really tough conversation Kano is going to have at the end of the season when, assume a lot of these players are on like 1+ season contracts, right? Which ones don't get invited back because they didn't get enough time to show their quality on the pitch, or because Kano wants to go in a different direction. That's where it's really going to matter. So for them themselves, is 2025 at risk? Not so much. 2026, a completely different ball game. But I don't think the likes of Rovira, even though I would argue we're the heaviest on the right side now with the addition of Rio Hope Gunn extending past his 25-day contract, I would say that like maybe the playing time may be a little bit more sparse there. I'm more interested in, does that allow Quezera to finally alternate with Aldair Sanchez, and we get 2 different dynamics, for 45 minutes one way and then 45, or 60-30, whatever you want to say. I'd be more interested in that. But that back 3, I mean, we didn't really peg Rio Hope Gunn as a right center back. I mean, he's showing he can do it. I mean, but look at it this way, right? Kofi Chumesi showed that he could do it last year, and he was lights out for the few games before he got injured. So, like, it's great to have that weapon in the tank. Do I think between Grant Stoneman and Hugo, like, can we have some solid rotation? Absolutely. I'll be more interested how the wingback system plays out, because I think that's where the fight for the minutes is going to be a lot harder.
And so the crazy thing at this, you say wingback, but like, we've been consistently playing 4-back lines, right?
I think we
like,
go back to a back 3 when they're all healthy.
You think so?
You have to.
I don't know. I think that it's one of those weird systems in the sense where, like, I say that he is a big fan of Pep, where sure, positionally it doesn't mean anything because the way that they push up and you have those 2 center backs there with the goalkeeper right behind it, everybody's comfortable playing the ball. And then depending upon the opponent that we're playing against, they will push forward. So I think there's a lot of flexibility in the way that this team plays. And I don't see that we actually go back to a 3-5-2 system. Maybe the way that we move forward, but not the way we line up.
Torin, what do you got?
Yeah. And I think I was really happy to see Rivera when he was listed on the bench, just because I think that right back spot has been one of the questions I think we've been asking all season, is kind of like, who's going to solve that issue? Obviously, it just hasn't looked quite right. Hope Gunn, who I love, has put in a shift every game, but offensively, he's not quite there yet. We've seen Quezera play right wing back, and I think that really hasn't worked as well as we would have liked to see it. But I think Danny Rivera is kind of your classic right back, right wing back. He's got a really good cross on him, which Kano talked about, which when we have JJ Williams back, having him and Aldair, whipping in crosses to JJ, that could be lethal. In terms of Hugo, it's tough. I haven't seen him play that much. We have so many players that can play center back right now, so who knows? But again, depth is a good thing. It's Eddie. If we could have 7 players who are all good to start at center back, then that's fine with me.
I look at it tactically as, if you want to talk about the Achilles heel of this team last season, sometimes teams knew how to play around the 3-5-2. Colorado Springs, Pittsburgh Riverhounds, being able to switch into a 4-2-3 or any back four system where you're going with possession first, dropping into a more low block, maybe canceling your press and just trying to do crosses, right? Like it's such a complete different deviation from the normal tactics we've seen. That in and of itself is an argument for why this team can be so elusive. Then we've talked at length, is our opponents afraid of this team anymore? Do they know Kano now? Have they figured out the system? Being able to not be prepared and go, am I going to see a 3-5-2 high press full octane team, or am I going to see some back four possession based team like that? That is exciting. And with that kind of flexibility, again, I don't think any player necessarily is in jeopardy. I don't know how many starting minutes there can be shared across that, but I agree. Like now with Rivera, if he's as solid as I think we all hope he will be, and he's shown that with the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, we know what we can kind of expect from him. I think that'll make some interesting dynamics on game day for selection. Speaking of the back line, though, Matt Jean writes in, do you think Aime, Frank, and Karifa are the best back line that we can put out? Seemed to work well in the second half. He just completely ignores Rio Hope Gunn in that mix. That's okay, Matt. We'll give you some forgiveness.
You still got that 3 back line on the mind.
Torin, is that the back 3/4?
I think, again, we were just talking about the depth. I don't think we will have like a stable back four that starts week in, week out, because as much as Karifa played amazingly, I thought Stoneman was one of our best players against Louisville. So I think it's really going to depend on the opposition, and being able to do that is a really good thing. But I would say going into Sacramento, I would definitely say that those 3 should definitely start. I wouldn't play Frank at left back. I would move him over to right back and let Aldair go back, into that left back position. I know he struggled a little bit defensively. He was getting shown up a bit, but I think he offers so much attacking wise, and his crosses are fantastic. I mean, that ball into Dequo was just, it was pinpoint. It was amazing. And I think so that's the lineup I would go for next game, in terms of, I think by the end of the season, you'll look back on it and you won't be able to name a back four that consistently started throughout.
I agree with that to a certain extent. I think it was curious that Frank came on as a substitute. I think he offers so much offensively. When you look at the rest of the center backs on this team, he had some of the best production numbers last year offensively, but now just seeing what he can do on the line, there's a reason why he's kind of been converted into this, ball playing wingback or ball playing fullback. He's just so versatile to not be on the pitch. There's better maybe defensive arguments by having such a forward wall of Yao and Mabika, and then insert whoever would be, I guess, on the right, whether it's Stoneman or Rio Hope Gunn. I get that, but I don't see a space where Nadarse doesn't get the start. And what I would be really interested in the next kind of few matches is to see if he can be that much of an impact player in the sub opportunity. Is he the game changer? Is he the X factor, like we talked about Joe Brito at times? If teams cannot recover from a later substitution of Frank Nadarse, is that the most dangerous place to use him right now, especially when we have all this quality depth in our defensive line? What say you, Jason?
It's wild to say that we look at players like Frank Nadarse and think of him like, okay, what wingback position is he best in the sense where we have so much depth at center back.
Bro, Cuban street ball is not to be trifled with.
Love me a good Cubano sandwich,
Mike M writes in, is there a coin flip for which side of the field RFC starts on? Wouldn't it be more strategic to shoot at their keeper with Defiance at their back in the second half? You can take this one out the park. This is
there always is. And the problem is that you only get that for one half, right? So depending upon the way that you see yourself as a team, are we going to be better in the first half, the second half? It's randomness in terms of the coin. It's tough to say how that.
Well, no. It just comes down to the flip. The opposing team never wants to have to play with the supporters group at their back in the second half. They never want that. So every time you've seen that, Mike, the reality is we've lost the coin flip more times than we've won it, because otherwise that would never happen. It's the same way in Pittsburgh, where we lost that coin flip as well. Not only is the supporter groups like a nuisance and a problem, but sometimes the positioning of the pitch is also equally important. For those of you watching the Highmark game, Jackson Lee, eyes in the sun for the first half as the sun was settling over the range there. Once it got in the second half, conveniently, sun's no longer a problem, and their keeper doesn't have the sun in his eyes. But that first half, Jackson Lee was kind of doing this the entire match because
should have brought out the cap.
He needed the giant pit vipers for the game. But we're gonna move on here. What's this next question, Jason?
All right, Kevin B here says, now since we have our first win at home, is there a feeling of the monkey being off our back? I think I said that earlier. Do you think this can help propel the team to really make up some ground in the standings? It's crazy because at one point in the night when we were drawing, we were what? I think I told you we were in 9th place.
Yep.
And then by the end of the night, we ended up in 6th. So with the exception of what? Louisville, Charleston, and Loudoun, the rest of that playoff berth is very open. There's a lot of room there for like jumping positions, in the sense that like a win or two will really propel us higher up. And I know we were maybe like kind of struggling to see where this team was going to land. At this point, coming off of a win like this, there's definitely a feeling that this can propel us forward. I'm going to wait till see what happens this weekend in regards to, okay, we got a nice win here. Can we do it again against the Sacramento team who hasn't been doing great this year?
Don't jinx it.
But that's the consistency we're looking for.
Torin, what say you?
I think these next two games are as much as I kind of hate to say it, are the most important, because you've just gotten the first win. Like,
The
where
next
do you
match
go?
is the most important.
Giving the Kano answer, but I think again, because it's Sacramento, who haven't been playing well this season. Don't want to jinx it. Knock on wood. But you have them, and then we have Portland in the Jägermeister Cup, which we've done so well in so far. If we end June and we've gotten 9 points from our last 3 games, I think this team could place in a 5th, maybe even a 4th, and get that, home playoff berth. So I think these next 2 games, to me, are very important to see kind of where we take this momentum. Do we continue it and get those 2 results that theoretically we should be getting?
I think it's interesting. We held Kano to the fire about like good teams don't lose 2 games in a row. And then now I would almost kind of flip it the other way and say, good teams should be able to string multiple wins together in a row, right? Get 2 wins in a row. So it will be interesting to see if this momentum can be capitalized on. That being said, I don't know that it's necessarily all doom and gloom if they don't. I think, Torin, you're right. The bigger picture here is 12 points out of the next 7 matches puts them in I wouldn't say a solidified position for playoffs, but a competitive and healthy position for a playoff run. Whether or not that's 4th place and getting home, I again, who knows? That's going to be down. Like, we're going to have to revisit that in September. But I do think that total point accumulation for the next 7, with 6 of those matches being at home, I think that's really the real answer. Whether they come through wins and a draw sprinkled in here or there, this is the time for the club to really rally and use this victory as a method of galvanizing the squad and the fans and kind of just the overall atmosphere in Pawtucket. So what's the final question, Jason?
All right, here. And then Rachel C says, the win couldn't have come any other way, right? Thinking about it a day later, was the win tactical or was it just down to luck and deserved?
I think I like this question because it gets it gets the polish off of it. You know, you're a day later, and like you're still happy that there's a win there, but like you start thinking about it. I think Joe had said, you know, this felt ugly at times. It reminds me again what we said at Louisville. Sometimes you're going to not be able to put up results against great teams. At no point did I think North Carolina was a team that couldn't be beat. I think we said it last week. We hadn't seen it yet from the guys, so until it was shown, it was kind of like prove me wrong. Same thing with Miami. It's just the other direction. Miami was a team we thought we should beat, but I didn't discount their ability to potentially sneak a victory past us. Like there are very few teams that truly scare me when it comes to the level of competition or ability. What normally gets in the way of a result is Rhode Island FC not performing at the best or at the levels that they should be holding themselves accountable to. And so, yeah, could you argue that in this North Carolina game that both teams had a fair look at a victory and getting all 3 points? Arguably, yes. Did this game have ugly moments in it? Absolutely, yes. But we've also talked at length that like it seems like luck was all used up getting to the final last year, and some of it maybe needed to start kind of flowing back towards Rhode Island's way. And whether you agree with it or not, I know some people hate when we say the L word like that, but luck is a huge factor. And what matters is the team showed up in the moments they were able to get the goals that they needed to get to put themselves in those positions to score those goals. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters, because guess what? They came away with 3 points. So yeah, can we sit here and, you know, break it down in the subatomic level? Sure. But like at the end of the day, the win's the win.
I know we haven't really talked about stats, but I did by chance see a graph from there's this Blue Sky account that
USL Analytics or whatever.
So there's a graph, it's beautiful, where you see the second half and the kind of ebb and flow of the game just skyrockets for RFC towards the end of the match. It's just out of control.
I believe Ryan
just
Healy
off the charts.
likes to talk field tilt a lot. You can just say field tilt.
Oh yeah, no. Ryan Healy, so much field tilt in this game. And at that point, you look at that and say, hey, we really pushed the narrative here and we really went for it. So while getting penalties and things like that, sure, can come down to some luck, we put ourselves in a position to get that luck, right? RAFC went out there and they wanted it, and they kind of created their own luck, if you will.
Torin, you get the final word here. Do you agree with Rachel's statements, or was it something else?
I mean, talking about what you were saying, where the game felt ugly at times, I agree, but I think for most of it, I thought we were the better team. I mean, I know we weren't going to bring up stats, but just to give you one or two, we had more possession, shots on target, and big chances created.
But how many Chick-fil-A corner kicks did we have, Torin?
Too many. 7 actually, to be exact, and no goals.
For the record, we had a very deep conversation with the front office staff in the press box, asking for clarity on if a corner kick goes into the box and
very
then
existential,
bounces around. If it's not like when does the corner kick not count as a Chick-fil-A giveaway? Like, because there was a moment where I think it went into the mixer, it bounced out, and it deflected out to a player. He took a shot. I think it was Clay maybe even, and like it went wide. And we were like, if he had scored that,
would that count?
Would that have counted as my Chick-fil-A
do we
sandwich?
get our chicken sandwiches?
We then asked, is it every time it touches any player, does one of the pieces of the chicken sandwich get removed to where you're just down to like a bun, like maybe just the bottom part of the bun? So we don't know yet. That these were all important questions, no clarifying answers yet. And but we're as the journalists in the podcast space, we're gonna get to the bottom of this for the fans. All right, we're gonna make sure that they know they can celebrate that they've gotten a free Chick-fil-A sandwich, which ironically, again, you can't get on Sundays after a Saturday match. So their Monday Chick-fil-A sandwich, we're gonna make sure this is all squared away in the next couple of weeks. But anyways, I interrupted you. Go back to your stats. We were leading possession, we were leading in shots, we were leading in Chick-fil-A corners. I apologize.
I mean, I think at this rate, they're just dying to give away those chicken sandwiches. So it could bounce 10 times in the box and they'd still give us our chicken. But no, I thought we were the much better team. And I thought that was a much deserved win. As much as I think you can look at it, that it was a 95th minute penalty and maybe, say that it was a bit of luck. But we should have won that. I thought we could have won that game 3 or even 4-1. Obviously the finishing is still lacking, and that is part of a testament of why you deserve to win a match if you can't put the ball in the back of the net. But I think when you look at those last 3 games that we played, and you look at this one, the amount of improvement I think you see is it's a lot. I think we played a lot better. The mentality, which I talked about earlier, I think was the big thing, is that we really wanted to win this one, and we're willing to fight all the way to the 92nd minute to do it. And I think as much as maybe we got a bit lucky with that penalty, I think the performance was good, and we deserved the win on the night.
Agreed. Well, I think that's going to be it for this episode. It's been so much fun having Torin join us. I hope that this can be the beginning of something much more often, and see your face not just in the background and all the incredible work you do. And honestly, like, just to give you your own flowers here for a moment, like, you've been doing so much to help us with both the brand as well as the behind the scenes stuff. So it's really great to be able to have this moment and be able to talk soccer with you in front of the fans instead of just like in these conversations we have on the back channels and also at the Guild. So thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, and can't wait to see what else happens. But Jason, the floor is yours to send us off.
Yeah. Thank you, Torn. I appreciate all that you've done for us. I can't wait till we score an Olympico and they have to give us a chicken sandwich meal. That hasn't been confirmed, but I'm willing that into existence. So when that definitely happens, it's going to be a full-blown meal here. Anyways, make sure to check out our friends soccer coverage, and that is including RAFC at theblazingmusket.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Threads, TikTok, and Blue Sky at RAFC Podcast. We have an Instagram. It's at Raising Anchor. And we also got that website. You can go check that out too. That is raisinganchorpodcast.com. Anchor's up, my friends. On to the next one. Let's go. Vamos.
Anchor's up.
Anchor's up.